Hello and welcome to the Film Pulse Podcast. This is episode number 464. My name's Adam Patterson. With me today, we've got Kevin Rakestraw. Hey, Kevin.
Hello.
This week on the show, we'll be reviewing Park Chan-wook's latest Decision to Leave. We'll also be going over some of what we're watching on the watch list and going over this week's new releases in theaters, VOD, and Blu-ray. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Please remember to review us on iTunes if you get a moment. That'd be great. With that, I think we can hop on in. New Saved by the 90s should be dropping this week, I'm hoping. But stay tuned for that. Also, we landed on a lineup for our Christmas episode, which is another made-for-TV Christmas. I think this is like the fourth year that we've done this. Fourth or fifth year. There's a never-ending supply of 90s Christmas TV movies. Like this year's lineup, I'm so excited for this year's lineup because they look so bad. And I just can't wait to dive into them. So, anyway, let's go ahead and jump into Decision to Leave. Now, this is currently playing in limited release, so check your listings for this. It will be on Mubi December 9th. So mark your calendars if you have Mubi, December 9th. I have a synopsis here. A detective investigating a man's death in the mountains meets the dead man's mysterious wife in the course of his dogged sleuthing. All right.
wait, hold up.
Okay. All right. Now, it makes it seem like he just stumbles onto the wife during his investigation.
He's doing so much work, and he's just such a great detective. He just fucking sticks with it, and he finally discovers her.
Let me read let me just read the letterboxed one, just so you can see the difference between whoever wrote the IMDb one. Hi June, a seasoned detective investigates the suspicious death of a man on a mountaintop. Soon he begins to suspect So Ray, the deceased's wife, while being unsettled by his attraction to her. Now, see, that is way more... I think that's a way better synopsis.
Yes.
Which is typical, but I still think it's a lot of fun to read the IMDb ones because they're often so ridiculous.
They truly are, and it's just interesting because they've been around for so long.
And the thing is, I'm 100% sure that IMDb gets referenced a lot more than Letterboxd. I mean, Letterboxd is a very popular platform, no doubt, but it's popular within the like movie buff niche, you know?
Yeah.
Like it's not like just Joe Public who wants to look something up real quick. They'll go to IMDb for that.
Yeah.
Anyway, let's start with you, Kevin. What were your initial impressions of Decision to Leave?
Oh boy. I gotta say that I was pretty happy with this, given that I wasn't the biggest fan of Handmaiden or Stoker, really. Those two were just kind of to me.
You know, honestly, for me too, like those two were like kind of on the weaker side for me.
Yeah. So like I went into this with like a little excitement, but not too much. You know what I mean? I was like, oh, we'll see what happens here, and I tried to keep an open mind. And I was a little bit worried at first because it's this weird thing with this movie where its strength is also kind of its weakness, is that it is all over the place. We are just constantly moving through the narrative. Just we're in different locations, we're in different times, we're in people's memories, we're all over the place. And at the outset, in the beginning, it was a bit much for me because it kind of caught me off guard where I was, what the fuck was going on? There's just too much happening. It's just like, please, at some point, can you settle down and just like get like a nicer rhythm for me? Because if it's this for 2 hours, I'm going to be fucking lost. And it does do that. It does settle into a rhythm that I thought was a much nicer pace. And like I was saying, that was a negative, but it's also a strength because that's really what keeps this like visually interesting is how it's all over the place. You're different locations. Next thing you know, the detective's like in a memory, or he's at someone's house, and we're going through TV screens. We're doing all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, it's sort of like Boondock Saints at times. You know, remember like when Willem Dafoe is like investigating the crime scenes and he's like there during
Yes.
the specific. I'm sure there's a better movie to reference that does that also than Boondock Saints, but that was just the first thing that popped into my head. But yeah, like those scenes I think are great. And yeah, I agree with you that at one point, maybe at the halfway mark, maybe it was a little bit before the halfway mark, I started to feel like I was losing grip on this movie. Like I was like, it's about to lose me in that I'm not sure what's going on. Like I was like teetering on that where I started to get confused about timelines and things like that. But it sort of stabilized and I was like, okay, I see what's happening here. I understand what's going on. But it did get very close to like completely baffling me at a certain point. Thankfully, it didn't go like full on where it was just like completely illogical or like not illogical, but like just off the rails as far as the timeline and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that it's for the most part it's a good story. It's a good narrative. It's very intriguing. It does keep you engaged. It is, you know, throughout it's pretty extended runtime. I mean, this is over 2 hours long. But I think that it uses that time pretty efficiently. I think maybe it could have been tightened up in certain aspects, but you know, it's also interesting in that I don't think that this is an entirely original story in any way, but at the same time, I think the way in which Park Chan-wook tells it still keeps it engaging to the audience, even though I feel like this is kind of something that we've seen before in movies where, you know, it's a beautiful woman who she might be a Black Widow and like the detective is fallen in love with her and stuff. And yeah, I feel like there wasn't a lot of new material here. However, the methods in which he tells the story and the characters, I think that all of that sort of made up for maybe the lack of originality with the narrative.
Yeah. And I think two things that really help it in that regard, because I'm kind of with you where the narrative, I would say it does lack some originality. I mean, I like where it ends up at, you know,
yeah.
I kept thinking like, there's got to be more to this, right? There's got like something's going to happen. There's got to be like an element to this narrative that's just going to completely change things, but that doesn't really happen. So that expectation is kind of my fault because I'm kind of thinking like Old Boy or something where I'm like, oh, there's going to be like a twist or something, or there's going to be more to this than with face value. There has to be, but that's not the thing. But there's two things that help it greatly. Is one I already mentioned, visually, there's just a lot of stuff going on. It seems like him and his crew they're trying fucking everything. We got skewed camera angles. We got nighttime shots. We got police chases in fog. We got all sorts of stuff going on, man. And to me, that variety in the visuals really helped out. And then second is there's a decent amount of comedy in this, which I think really, really helped, especially with the runtime. It got broken up with some levity here and there, which was really helpful. Because if this was just played like super serious, I think it definitely, not to say it would have failed, but it definitely wouldn't have impacted me as much.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's one thing that Park Chan-wook is good at is injecting little bits of comedy into his movies, which are oftentimes, you know, pretty dire. This one I think less less so than some of his other ones. But
Yeah, it feels like his twist on like a old like a Hollywood romance, almost like noir type, but just in his style,
hmm
which I thought was kind of fun because I've been kind of in that mode recently. I've been wanting that, so this kind of came at like the right time.
yeah, I agree. Just to reiterate, I think that it is kind of. I don't think it's on the same level as Old Boy or any of his other revenge movies, but I still enjoyed it. I thought it was a good time.
It's definitely very exciting too, in the sense of like we stated from the outset between Handmaiden and Stoker, where this I don't want to necessarily say like a return to form because I think Handmaiden it was his like the technical aspects of that movie are pretty damn good, but it does feel for me kind of like a return to form where I'm like, oh, maybe I'm gonna be super excited about his work moving forward, like I used to be.
hmm Yeah, yeah, I agree. I just kind of hope. I just don't want him to do another love story next. Like I'm kind of done with the
With love stories
well, from him.
for
Like
him.
I don't know. The love story angle of it was not what intrigued me about this movie. It was sort of the other aspects, the more kind of crime slash procedural aspects.
Yeah, but I do like how he plays with that a little bit of
Oh
where
no, yeah, yeah,
this detective obsesses over her, and then she gives him like the ultimate obsession.
yeah. I mean, to be clear, I think that it's essential for the movie. Like I think that it was completely necessary, but I
Yeah, and I
guess
think it.
I guess maybe I liked the exploration of that obsession more than the actual relationship between the two. Because I mean,
Yeah,
he
and I
basically
think
turns into a stalker, which I think is kind of
yeah, but I think that's and it works with that ending.
yeah,
That makes it you know and it enhances it because if you don't have that ending, you're just kind of like because I was kind of thinking the same thing where I'm like, okay, he's just kind of obsessed. Like this isn't. I don't know if this warrants 2 hours.
yeah,
But then, yeah, that ending kind of put everything into perspective where it was like, okay, yeah, this is pretty good.
yeah. It was pretty. The ending was pretty wild too. What did you think of the? There were a couple Rolexes in this,
Oh
shown
yeah, you
shown
got
very prominently.
got those cracked crystals. Got to get that crystal replaced.
So what do
Rough.
you? I mean, what was your take on this? So the man who is murdered at the beginning or dies, we're not sure if he's murdered or not at the beginning. He falls off of a cliff, and the Rolex breaks.
Hmm.
How'd you feel about that? Were you offended that they would show a
No,
Rolex broken in that manner?
Rolex would definitely break in that situation.
Okay.
100%. Yeah, you're not. It's not surviving that. I mean, they're pretty sturdy. They're pretty robustly built, but it's not surviving that.
Then they showed another Rolex later on another dead
Yeah,
body. So
yeah. But the interesting thing is sure that this has the place into like the personality type thing going on here because you have two guys that are kind of they're rich and somewhat flaunt it, so they got the Rolexes, and our detective wears an Omega,
hmm
which is his is just a very subtle, subdued dress watch.
but he also has a chainmail glove. So
Which okay, I'm glad you brought that up because almost forgot. Because as soon as he pulls out the chainmail glove, which I kind of forgot about this from the kitchen days, but as soon as he pulled one out, I was just like, God damn, why hasn't that been a thing in movies more often? Because it's really fucking badass. Like one guy has a knife. You think it's gonna be a knife fight? He just pulls out a chainmail glove and he's like, "All right, I'm just gonna grab this fucking thing from you."
yeah, you never.
And he
I don't know that I've ever seen a movie aside from like medieval type movies that involve chainmail gloves.
which is just fucking genius because you're like, oh yeah, those things exist. So you don't, you know, if you don't know how to cut vegetables and stuff, you wear it for some. I don't know if I've ever seen anyone actually use it for that, but it's a fucking genius idea. And then he just grabs the shit out of the guy.
Yeah, yeah, just grabs the knife and starts punching him in the face over and over again.
I fucking loved it.
There was a level of classiness to this movie that I really enjoyed. Like all of the apartments and stuff for the most part looked very well kept and just classy. And just that scene when he's interrogating her for the I guess it's the first time, but he like brings in the sushi and just the way that they eat and like how everything is so meticulous, and like her apartment and his like bachelor pad apartment that he has. Like everything is just so minimalist and very clean and well kept. I liked all of that. And he has an incredible hi-fi system. Holy crap. That thing is a beast.
I also wanted that sushi. That was like the fanciest takeout sushi I've ever seen in my life.
With the little
Like
fish, the little fish soy sauce bottle
and then
things.
it came in like the nicest box I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Everything is in like little compartments. Like that box alone is probably like $20. Just the box with nothing in it.
Yeah, I mean they said it was like the fanciest one. It was the fancy meal.
That's ridiculous. Spending way too much on takeout. It'd be crazy for the overhead of that place.
Yeah.
I give it a pretty strong recommend. I have a feeling because I gotta say that I'm pretty fresh off of this, so there is a part of me that wonders how it's gonna grow with me over the next couple of months. But I have a feeling, just from early reports, is that it's gonna grow favorably.
Could be, yeah. I mean, I'm fresh on this too. Like I just watched this today actually, so I'm still sort of processing it. So I'm not sure how I'll feel about it in, a couple weeks time, but
yeah, but it's just a nice early bump because I kind of forgot about the chainmail glove thing.
Hell yeah.
Which is pretty badass.
I did like that that there were like other cases that they were working during this too. Like the fact that they included that other murder case and stuff. I liked that.
The turtle theft.
The turtle theft, yeah.
It's good, and it does hit you with that surprise of where like the initial or the central investigation just kind of ends,
mm-hmm.
and then it gets picked up later on. So there's enough there to me for the way that he handles this narrative, even though that it is a bit scattershot at times, but at the same time it's kind of invigorating because you don't really know what's going to happen. You don't know what case he's going to be on in the next scene.
Well,
or
yeah,
if he's actually going to be in present day or if he's going to be in a memory.
And at one point it jumps forward in time like a year and it's in a completely different city.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's and also like I'll just reiterate the camera work and like the really cool transitions that they would do in this. Like that there was like that one scene when they were like zooming in. They like zoomed in on a picture of like flowers or something, and then it like transitioned into an actual like bouquet of flowers into the next scene. And so he did a lot of cool stuff with regards to the camera work too.
Yeah, which is always fun because it's taking those little mundane transitions,
mm-hmm.
but give them that flair.
And that's the thing, like it's not like there's a ton of action or anything in this movie, but the cinematography helps make up for some more of the more mundane moments.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's Decision to Leave. Kevin, what are you going to give this one out of 10?
I'm thinking, I'm almost leaning to an 8. I feel myself leaning towards an 8. I was going to say 7.5. Thinking 8.
Well, there you have it. I'm at like a 7.5 on this one. Definitely worth a look. Again, playing in limited release right now. Going to be on Mubi. What did I say? December 9th or something?
I think he said 9.
Yeah, keep an eye on Mubi if you have it. All right, let's move on and talk about some of what we've been watching. I got a couple. I feel like I haven't been watching a lot of good stuff lately, like for a while, but this week, man, with Decision to Leave and a couple of these other movies I don't want to mention, I had a really good week.
Nice.
Great week, actually. We'll start things off with Triangle of Sadness. This is the new one by Ruben Östlund. This is the guy who did Force Majeure, and he did The Square, which I didn't see, but now after seeing Triangle of Sadness, I realize I absolutely have to go back and watch The Square, which I hope to do this week. Did you see The Square?
No, but I'm gonna have to. My wife's been begging me to watch that movie.
Yeah, I was interested in it. I just didn't get around to seeing it. Anyway, Triangle of Sadness, if you're not familiar with this, takes place on a luxury cruise yacht, and it's just full of it's a yacht that's just full of rich people, and a series of catastrophes happen on this yacht, and it just kind of knocks them down a peg. There's if you're familiar with Östlund's stuff, I mean, it's definitely chock full of social commentary. It's definitely a satire, and I had a great time with it. I think it was very funny. It's ridiculous at times. It is gross. It is surprising where it goes. I didn't expect it to take some of the turns that it did, and I highly recommend it. I think it is probably one of my favorite movies of the year so far. It's just full of that kind of just oddball, cringy at times humor that just takes a look at the upper class and just shreds them. But also, this one is also kind of interesting because it tackles things like gender roles and sexism and stuff like that too. So there's some more going on here that I thought was pretty interesting. So definitely recommend Triangle of Sadness. Woody Harrelson's in this, and he plays the captain of the ship, and he's like just shit-faced drunk the whole time. It's pretty wild.
Incredible. Well, I have nothing.
Okay.
The only other thing I watched was the Thanksgiving tradition of Prisoners.
I was gonna ask.
Oh yeah, I got Prisoner. I love that. That's me and my wife's way of like the night before Thanksgiving, where we have to do a shit ton of work. We're like, oh yes, let's relax.
Yeah, watch Prisoners.
Nice evening watch of Prisoners.
So has it been holding up for you over the years?
It has, and it's surprising because I keep expecting. Because like when I first saw Prisoners, I enjoyed it. The second time we watched it, like when we started this tradition, I was like, man, I don't know if I really want to sit through Prisoners again. I was like, it's not too bad. And I'm being every year, it holds up, and I'm like pretty excited. Like once it starts rolling, I'm like, oh yeah. I think it's like right when Gyllenhaal's character gets introduced, because I think his performance is probably one of his best of his career in that movie. And once he gets introduced, I'm just like, oh yeah, that's right. This is great. Let's do this. And I think also by the time he's introduced, I think I've had probably like 2 or 3 cocktails. So I'm just like, hell yeah. Get him, Jake. You're going to find them. You're going to find them kids. I know he is.
It is a great movie.
There's just something about it, it's Thanksgiving. It's a PA set movie. Got everything you could want.
Yeah, definitely. All right. Well, I saw Hardcore from 1979.
This I'm very interested to hear about.
Directed by Paul Schrader. I have this like kind of just blank spot for some of Schrader's movies, and I aim to fix that soon. And I started things off with Hardcore. Never saw this before. Loved it. I mean, it is like, man, it is kind of exactly what I was looking for, which is like that really awesome 70s sleaze. And what you have here is George C. Scott is he's this like super conservative father who it realizes that his daughter is missing. They took a trip to Knott's Berry Farm, and she never came back. And he starts looking for her. He ends up hiring a detective played by Peter Boyle, and finds out that his daughter is in a hardcore porn film. And it doesn't seem like she's super happy to be in it, and so he kind of loses his shit and heads off to track down his daughter by going to all of these like really seedy like strip clubs and porn shops and like brothels, and just doing his own detective work. And it's great. I mean, it's a sad film in a lot of ways, and it's, you know, pretty depressing. It is a little bit of a Christmas movie though, which I didn't know. Takes place during Christmas time.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, highly recommended, especially if you're into that kind of 70s sleaze. Like I don't know. I always kind of like movies that take place in that world. I'd prefer it to be New York. This is in California, but hey, it's still great. So yeah, highly recommend Hardcore. I saw It Comes. This is directed by Tetsuya Nakashima. This is it's a horror film. Not exactly what I expected. It's sort of a possession / haunted apartment movie about it's a guy who discovers that there's like something very strange going on in his apartment, and he ends up like getting this exorcist and a journalist to try to help him figure out what's going on in his apartment. Takes some really crazy turns, and it just gets completely bonkers at the end, which I had a lot of fun with. So I highly recommend It Comes. I don't want to give too much away, especially about like what happens towards the end, but it definitely contains a lot of stuff that you just don't see coming. So
yeah, I think that's got me. So anytime I hear horror and someone describes it as it gets bonkers, yeah, sign me up.
Yeah, highly recommend it. And this is by the guy who did Confessions, which I loved, The World of Kaneko, which I thought was okay, but he's a really interesting director. So yeah, highly recommend It Comes. And then finally, I saw the Weird Al movie, which I actually liked quite a bit. This is a Roku original, so
yep.
That's I guess they're in the movie making business now. It's directed by Eric Appel, and it's not really a biopic. Like it's more like Walk Hard. That's kind of what this movie is. It's like a spoof of biopics. But the interesting thing is it's about Weird Al Yankovic. It's written by Weird Al. Weird Al's in it, playing a record executive. But then you have Daniel Radcliffe in here playing young Weird Al. And it goes to some really ridiculous places, and I actually thought it was really funny. I feel like I haven't seen a movie like this in quite a long time, where it's just completely over the top and goofy, sort of like MacGruber, like one of those movies. And I just thought it was really funny. There's a lot of like one of the funniest things about this movie is that early on, like when he first becomes famous, he starts dating Madonna. So like Evan Rachel Wood plays Madonna, and she's like a pretty prominent character throughout the movie, and then I'm just going to give a mild spoiler away and say that because I think it's just so funny and it'll maybe steer you towards wanting to see this. But at one point, Weird Al murders he murders Pablo Escobar, and then Madonna takes over the Mexican drug cartel. It's really goofy. And there's also sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I didn't realize how many fucking people are in this goddamn movie.
Yeah, there's a ton of people, and there's also a really great scene. So Rainn Wilson plays Dr. Demento, and there's this scene where Dr. Demento is having a party, and it is like comprised of all of the like kind of weird fringe entertainers. So you have like Pee Wee Herman and Tiny Tim and Gallagher and Alice Cooper and Andy Warhol. Conan O'Brien plays Andy Warhol. Salvador Dali and Divine. Wolfman Jack, played by Jack Black. And then, you have this like kind of oddball party, and David Dastmalchian plays John Deacon, the bassist from Queen, and they make fun of him the whole time because they don't know why he's there. Just randomly the bassist from Queen.
Oh my goodness, this sounds dumb as hell.
It is. It's dumb, but it's like really fun. So, yeah, I would give it a look. Light, very light recommend. Only if you're in the mood for something just stupid.
Yeah. Exactly.
The last one that I'll mention is A Christmas Story Christmas. I watched this on Thanksgiving just because, it seemed like the right thing to do to watch it on Thanksgiving. It's directed by Clay Cadis. And looking at this guy's filmography, he did the Angry Birds movie. Oof. I didn't hate this. It looked really stupid, and it kind of was, but at the same time, it was very nostalgic. I mean, it was very much playing into that whole nostalgia factor for people who love A Christmas Story. It's kind of heartwarming. It's a cute movie. I think that I was kind of hating it at the beginning, but it started to win me over by the end. Peter Billingsley, I think he co-wrote it, and I don't know like how much this is. I don't know how much this pulls from the book, but it's all right. So the premise of this one is that it takes place like 30 years after the original film. Ralphie's all grown up, and before his parents can come to stay with him and his family on Christmas, his father passes away, and so he ends up going back to his hometown and spending Christmas there. And his whole goal here is to give his kids and his family the like magical kind of Christmas that he had when he was a kid. So that's kind of the premise. Some of the jokes are pulled straight from Christmas Vacation, which kind of bothered me. Mm-hmm. And it was fine, I guess. I like Peter Billingsley. I think it was kind of fun to see him back in that role. But it's on HBO Max. So if you have HBO Max, you can check it out there.
I do, and I'm not.
Yeah, I wouldn't. Definitely not one that I think you would be into. And honestly, like I wasn't super excited to watch it anyway. It's not nearly as bad as what you would think, but
yeah,
it's also like it's like a meh. It's like a whatever. It's not bad, but it's not great either. All right, let's take a look at what we have in theaters this week. Violent Night is that's really the only notable one here. The only one that I'm seeing. That's the Christmas like action comedy. I'll check this out. I won't see it in the theater, but I'll give it a look. Looks kind of fun. Looks like a bunch of stupid fun.
Watch out. Yeah, I mean, it's the Dead Snow guy.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
That could definitely be fun.
On VOD this week, starting with the 29th, we have Battle for Saipan, we have Dash, and we have Please Baby Please. Then on December 1st, we have Troll, which is going to be on Netflix. We got A Wounded Fawn, that's going to be on Shudder. I think, is A Wounded Fawn, is that the Travis, what's his name?
Travis Stevens.
Yeah, Travis Stevens.
Yes.
I'm interested in that. Friend of the show, Travis Stevens. We got Senior on Netflix. That's going to be on December 2nd. Wait, is December 2nd? Yeah, that's Friday. We got Lady Chatterley's Lover. That's also on Netflix. We got Four Samosas. Confessions of a Hitman. Christmas with the Campbells. That's going to be on AMC Plus. We got Hunt. And then we got Savage Salvation. We also have Christmas in the Caribbean, which is the second Elizabeth Hurley Christmas movie. After
Christmas tour.
Yeah, after Christmas in Paradise. So got a couple notable things coming out this week. On Blu-ray, we have Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 from 1986. That's coming out in 4K. We got Don't Open Till Christmas from 1984. That looks like maybe a Vinegar Syndrome from the looks of it. Blood Delirium from 1988.
Hold up.
Blood Delirium.
Let me get that. Let me put that on the old watch list there. Oh, goodness. Necrophilia, madness, murder, dismemberment. Wow, it takes place in a castle. Yep.
Well, yes. This is definitely going on my watch list. Blood Delirium's a Vinegar Syndrome release. Also, we have The Amityville Curse from 1990. Cutter's Way from 1981. Libido from 1965. Mansion of the Living Dead from 1982. Blood Hunt from 1985. The Shadowed Mind from 1988. A Detective Story from 1951 starring Kirk Douglas. Burning Paradise from 1994. The Evil Men Do starring Charles Bronson. Emily the Criminal, which came out earlier this year. That one's pretty good. I saw that at I think Sundance maybe. Let's see. The Pact from 1995. Looks like Don't Worry Darling is coming out. Make sure you skip that. Mona Lisa and the Blood Moon, which you should check out. That one's worth looking at.
Do it.
Amityville Karen.
Yes. What's that? Have you watched that one?
No, this is a new one. It looks horrible. It looks like maybe it's kind of like a spoof or something. It's a limited edition. There's only 1,000 of them being made.
Oh, okay. This sounds terrible.
Yeah, it looks awful. Heartland of Darkness from 1992. And that's pretty much it for all the biggies. What about Criterion's?
We got nothing.
Nothing coming out on Criterion. All right. There you have it. All right, cool. Well, I think that's going to do it for this week. Thank you so much for listening. You can send us your questions and topics to podcast@filmpulse.net. You can follow us on Twitter @FilmPulseNet and @FilmPulseKevin. And if you have a minute, consider giving us a review on iTunes. That'd be great. For Kevin Rakestraw, my name's Adam Patterson. We'll see you next week.